ah, guys, there's a game called Bunko. I don't have the foggiest idea how you play it. I've never played it, but on the first Thursday of every month, my mother used to go with a group and she would play Bunko. And it came with prizes, like the women would all get together, and then there was always a prize for like first place or second place or third place. And my mom oftentimes would win something called the booby prize. Now, I didn't even know what that meant, and as a little kid, I thought it was funny just because it had the word booby in it, but at some point, my mother explained to me that the booby prize is for whoever comes in absolute last place. Like, you actually award the biggest loser in the room, so that the biggest loser doesn't have to feel like a biggest loser. They actually get an award and it gets recognized. I don't know where this comes from, but I think that the concept is somewhat playful, and I've always kind of been into the booby prize. Okay, fine. I just saw the worst call-out in the history of call-outs. This is the booby prize, and it goes to Gregor Gillespie. So, first off, he makes the video himself, okay? Now, I don't know if that means he's got a buddy with an iPhone, but it's something pretty close to this. Here's the establishing shot. Gregor is sitting down for breakfast. The breakfast is Wheaties in a bowl with a spoon. Makes sense, right? Okay, fine. So he starts it out by saying, people, I never call anybody out, but everybody's been telling me I have to do it. I have to play the game a little bit, and I want my first call out to count. Now, this is what adds to me teasing him, is he tried. If you lose and you get the booby prize because you didn't try, it's one. He's trying. He's got his own camera. He's got his own script and dialogue. And I could tell by the way he was performing it that this was like takes 5 and 6 and 7 and 8, like the first ones he threw out, okay? There was nothing organic about this. Guys, okay. So he calls out Anthony Pettis. He says it's going to be my first call out. And, you know, I don't want it to miss its mark, so I'm going for a good one. He calls out Anthony Pettis. Couple of things here. First off, am I now to draw the conclusion that the Wheaties breakfast of which he was having was some kind of a tip of the hat to Anthony Pettis having been on the Wheaties box? I think so. I think there was a correlation there because Nate Diaz even relived that a little bit a couple weeks ago and was calling him the Wheaties guy. The Wheaties guy. It was kind of funny when Nate said it. The problem was he didn't go to the special effects department well enough to get the actual Wheaties box with Anthony Pettis on it. It was just a Wheaties box of like today's standard, which had some other athlete on it. So there was no tie-in, even if there was meant to be. Secondly, Pettis is coming off of a loss. Pettis is a stud and he's a hammer. Nobody gets called out coming off of a loss. It's just kind of a rule, by the way. Okay. Oh, and should I mention Gillespie's undefeated? I have to tell you guys that because I have a feeling you guys probably don't know who he is. He's undefeated. Oh, I guess I should add this part. They're in different weight classes. He literally called out a guy coming off a loss when he's coming off of no losses in a different weight class. So then, right before you fade to black and roll the credits of this wonderful piece of theater, which he has produced himself, he then takes a bite of the Wheaties. The problem for me is I'm watching it, he never put milk onto the cereal. The milk was on the table, but now he takes a bite of dry Wheaties. My biggest takeaway from the whole thing, aside from being the worst call out of all time, wasn't that he called out a guy on a loss. Wasn't even that he called out a guy in the wrong weight class. Wasn't that he had an establishing shot and wanted to draw a correlation to the Wheaties guy, to the breakfast that he's having right there. It's that he forgot to put the milk on the cereal. Gregor, the milk. You got to put the milk onto the cereal. You don't just set the milk on the table. You got to open that milk up. You got to pour it onto the cereal. Then you need to call out a guy in your weight class. Genius.
So for the last 6 fights, everyone's been pressuring and annoying me to call somebody out. I never wanted to, but I think it's time to play the game. I want my first call out to count. So Showtime Pettis, although I think you're a great fighter, I think it's time to go back to 155 and meet me at MSG November 2nd. What do you say?